Hi, I'm Chris, horror filmmaker and fanatic, reviewing 3 new horror movies for my Fright Mix series, where I go over all the varieties of horror, from the soft, simple scares that newcomers will be alright with, all the way to the extreme, brutal things that hardcore horror buffs are interested in. First up, we got the soft horror film 10 Cloverfield Lane, released in 2016. Now, this film, on one hand, is more of a thriller, and that's also just an interesting debate of what is the strict difference between horror and thriller. Most people think that horror implies that it's going to be gory and bloody, but that's not necessarily true. I think the reason a lot of people assume that of horror is because slashers were such a huge genre, and then of course Saw popularized torture porn, so a lot of people just kind of know horror because of blood and gore. Thankfully though, James Wan has been making a lot of the Conjuring movies and stuff, and those films are not bloody and gory whatsoever, but they are jump scare fests. I'm hoping that the moody, atmospheric horror films start catching on, but anyway, back to talking about this film, 10 Cloverfield Lane. So this is the sequel, technically, to Cloverfield, but you don't need to have seen Cloverfield to understand this film. It's a totally different story, different characters. I've never even seen Cloverfield, and I've seen this film a bunch of times, so you're fine. You don't need to watch that. But quick plot synopsis. Mary Elizabeth Winstead gets into a car crash, and when she awakens, she finds herself in a fallout shelter, homemade by John Goodman. The whole deal with the movie is that John Goodman tells them that the world has ended, basically, and that there's a huge apocalypse, and he's keeping them safe. But there's a question whether or not he's actually telling the truth. And that's all I want to say. This is one of those films that it's just great to go in not really knowing everything about it, just know that there is a mystery and there is a payoff. Now, this one I consider soft horror because, yes, it's PG-13, it's not super blood and gore and stuff, and while horror is usually based on jump scares and trying to frighten you and horrify you, this film is all about creepy uneasiness, and John Goodman does a great job as a character that you just can never quite get a handle on. Do I like him? Do I trust him? Or is he scary? Is he what's up with him? And this is also a bottle movie, what I like to call it, a bottle episode originating in TV shows where while a season would be running, television shows would kind of run out of budget or needed to save money on future episodes, so they would make an episode called a bottle episode that would be very minimal in budget, take place in one location with only 2 or 3 actors throughout the whole thing. And that's what this movie is, actually. It's basically 3 characters in an underground bunker for the whole movie, and it is incredibly captivating. The mystery is really what carries it. The performances are awesome. This is one of those mystery thrillers that is easy to get your headspace in there. We're oh god, what would I do during this situation? Oh man. It's a really fun time. I don't think it's gonna overly, scare audience members or leave you with nightmares. It definitely is a great taste of the horror genre, and I really enjoy it. So I cannot recommend 10 Cloverfield Lane enough. Moving on to a more moderate level horror film, the all-time classic 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Quick plot synopsis. We follow a group of scientists and researchers stationed in a base all the way in Antarctica, and they suddenly find out that there's a mysterious alien creature that has invaded their base. But the trick is the Thing is able to imitate any kind of life form that it assimilates perfectly. So the whole movie's about paranoia, and no one knows who they can trust. And that is where the horror is amazing in this film. Not only do you have atmosphere just built up through cinematography, lighting, acting, story, but the concept, the whole just emotion of paranoia and the inability to trust what you are seeing is what just gets to my core about this film. I think paranoia is one of the best fear-based emotions that you can evoke in an audience member, and this is one of the best. It is also known for its amazing practical effects, literally amongst the most greatest practical effects of any film, basically. If you're one of those people who's sick of CGI nowadays and just wishes you could go back to a time when there was amazing practical effects, this is the film. You gotta watch this film. Now, while I will say this film isn't really big on the actual story and characters, the only character you're really gonna know and care about is Kurt Russell, the main character, but the entire concept and situation is what sells this film, and you're gonna be on edge the whole time. You will not know what to trust, and there's all kinds of twists and turns, and it is awesome. Also, if you really like wintry, snow, desolate atmospheres, then this is one of those great films as well. Yeah, just an all-time classic. I just cannot rave about this film enough. I love this film to death. I highly recommend anyone check out this film. I have it as a moderately paced horror film because there is some blood and gore in here. We got a scary alien assimilating into things, and there's some gross body horror stuff that goes on, but I don't think it goes into too much of the extreme category. It's not exploitative or anything, so watch at your own pace. And now moving on to the hardcore horror film, another Kurt Russell horror film, Bone Tomahawk, released in 2015. Now, Bone Tomahawk is very interesting because it is a Western horror with a little bit of dark comedy in there. there. And those are three genres that have never been mixed together ever, maybe. The plot synopsis of this film is in a small town in old Western America, three people are kidnapped by a mysterious cannibalistic tribe of natives, and four men set out to go save them. It's a very simple premise. Most of the film is revolving around four key characters just traveling and not only battling just their inability to trust each other, but also nature itself and any kind of dangers that are out there, because this is the Old West, so there ain't no law out here. For a large portion of this film, it is not horror at all, actually. There's a little bit of like stuff in the beginning that definitely establishes like, all right, there's gonna be some messed up horror stuff in this movie, but most of the runtime is dedicated to just these four men traveling, and it's very captivating. These four characters are very engaging, very interesting, all with unique different personalities and motives, and it's an interesting thing where there's not like this sort of BS like, oh, of course they gotta fight and they gotta argue and they're gonna break up or whatever, and all these like contrived conflicts, because you gotta have conflict in a movie. A lot of times these characters are, you know, they're at each other's throats, but they respect each other and they all understand that they're on the same mission to save these people from their town. And the true horrors come from the cannibalistic tribe, and I'm not going to spoil anything. This film is a slow builder. It's a little bit longer and it's a little slow, but it's great with its characters, and don't worry, there is a payoff. You're gonna see some messed up stuff. I mean, this is some hardcore violence that I have not seen in many films, and especially in a Western. Like, it's just very different seeing it in that kind of environment. This film is dark and brutal, and it does not shy away from showing you some really messed up stuff, which is why, even though most of the film isn't horror at all, really, it's like just an adventure movie, it belongs in that extreme hardcore category, because if you were to show someone this movie and maybe somehow they missed the beginning, then they would like have a nightmare by the end, because they'd be like, wait, what? Oh my god. Because that's the interesting thing, like when you're watching a non-horror movie and something scary happens, a lot of times that hits harder because you weren't expecting it, right? I know there's like a couple jump scares in the Harry Potter series that always got me, because I'm not expecting a jump scare in a Harry Potter movie. But when you're watching horror, you already have that in your head, like, okay, there's gonna be blood and gore. This is one of those films where you kind of forget that it's a horror film, so when the horror arrives, it hits that much harder. So yeah, if you're looking for a little bit of a challenge and also maybe want to venture in the Western genre for a bit, especially a good new Western, then definitely check out Bone Tomahawk. And there you go, there are my recommendations for 3 movies all across the different spectrum of horror. I hope you have found one that you definitely want to check out, whether you're a horror newbie and you're thinking, all right, I'll check out 10 Cloverfield Lane, or if you're a horror buff and you're like, all right, I want to see some messed up stuff, let's check out Bone Tomahawk. And I hope everyone who watches this video watches The Thing, because The Thing's amazing. It just is. But thank you very much for watching this series. Comment below other horror movies you would like me to go over in this series, and of course, please share and like these videos to spread the word of how scary. It's been awesome seeing the growth of this channel, and I would love for it to keep going, and I just want to keep talking about horror. It's fun. And that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.